Please welcome Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield.
Please have a seat. Thank you, Rosa. As you were describing all that, I kept looking around the room for the person you were describing. Now, where is she? That was very, very nice of you. Let me thank Representative Karen Bass for organizing this event, and all the other members of Congress and Senate who were here with us today. Your presence here is one of the reasons it was so easy for me to accept this job as the Assistant Secretary of African Affairs. And that is because I know that there's bipartisan support for Africa. And your presence here reflects that, and it is something that will keep me really focused on what the job is. And I look forward to working with all the members of Congress on both sides as we move forward on Africa. I'm really, again, speechless. I'm humbled, and I'm somewhat overwhelmed by all the comments tonight. Africa, for me, is a passion. It is not a job. It is something I wake up with and I go to sleep with every night. Africa is a place that has brought me much joy, and it is a place that has brought me many tears. But I know I've celebrated the joy with many of you here in the room and many across the continent of Africa, and I've shared the tears with many across the continent of Africa. So being Assistant Secretary of State is like the cherry on top of the ice cream for me, because it gives me an opportunity to work with all of you on moving our agenda forward on Africa. I look forward to talking with you tonight about U.S. Africa policy as we deal with the many threats affecting the region, including terrorism, piracy, unfair elections, and poverty. We must also remember the great successes we've seen in Africa, and particularly the economic growth and development that we're all witnessing on the continent. Last week, I got a wonderful email and letter from a young woman who corresponded with me, Zuriel Odowoli, and I'm sure you all know her name. She's an 11-year-old advocate for Africa, whose Dream Up, Speak Up, Stand Up program aimed at making the continuous case for educating the continent's young women. With young advocates like Zuriel, we know that there is someone out there who will follow in all of your footsteps. We know that there are young people who are coming along who will take the mantle and move it forward, and who are primed to strengthen our U.S. Africa policy in trade, in economics, in social areas, and in growth well into the future. I commend the members of Congress for their significant contributions to U.S. Africa policy. I look forward to working with all members of Congress as we move that agenda forward. As Assistant Secretary, I strive every day to pursue both our long-term interests as well as to deal with the near-term and the urgent imperatives we face. We work closely every day with our African partners to strengthen democratic institutions beyond just the need for free, fair, and transparent elections. We strive to establish environments where new entrepreneurship networks can flourish, economic opportunities can grow, and comprehensive development frameworks can take root. Our policy in Africa is based on 4 core priorities, and you've heard them. Strengthen democratic institutions, spur economic growth, trade, and investment, advance peace and security, promote opportunity and development. The key component in all of that is people. Across all objectives, we will deepen our engagements with Africa's young leaders. We will seek to empower marginalized populations and women, address the unique needs of fragile and post-conflict states, work closely with the UN and other multilateral actors to achieve our objectives on the continent. The United States has long invested directly in Africa's success through targeted initiatives, including AGOA. And I do recognize Mama AGOA sitting here to my right. We've worked on MCA, Feed the Future, the New Alliance for Food Security, the Partnership for Growth, the Global Health Initiative, the President's Emergency Plan for Aid Relief, and I congratulate Congress for voting PEPFAR through tonight. Thank you very much. President Obama has also emphasized the importance of 3 new initiatives that was announced during his trip to the region this summer: Power Africa, Trade Africa, and the Washington Fellowship for Young African Leaders. Power Africa aims to increase access to electricity by at least 20 million new households and commercial entities by complementing government resources with private sector commitments. Power Africa will build on Africa's enormous power potential and help countries develop newly discovered resources responsibly, build out power generation and transmission, and expand the reach of mini-grid and off-grid solutions. Power Africa will bring to bear a wide range of U.S. government tools to support investment in Africa's energy sector, and the U.S. will commit more than $7 billion in financial support for Power Africa over the next 5 years. However, the full promise of Power Africa will only be realized with greater private sector investment that complements and amplifies those efforts. And I congratulate and thank and commend the members of the private sector who are here with us today, because your efforts are absolutely essential to us moving Power Africa forward. On Trade Africa, and again, you play a key role, we hope to partner a partnership between the United States and Africa that will seek to increase trade within the region and expand trade and economic ties among Africa, the United States, and other global markets. Trade Africa's goal is to double interregional trade in the East African community and increase trade to the United States through targeted investments and support to government and institutions. Trade Africa aims to double intra-regional trade in the EAC, increase EAC exports to the United States by 40%, reduce by 15% the average time needed to import or export a container from the ports of Mombasa or Dar es Salaam to landlocked Burundi and Rwanda, and decrease by 30% the average time a truck takes to transit selected borders. That's a huge, huge agenda. What I've heard from my African colleagues in the room is why just East Africa? On Power Africa, why just the 6 countries that you've chosen? I would remind everyone that these are initiatives, and initiatives are just the start. Initiatives will spurn additional efforts. Initiatives will expand across the continent. Initiatives will be copied in other places. And we look forward to seeing Power Africa, Trade Africa initiatives over the entire continent of Africa. And finally, let me talk a little bit about the Washington Fellowship for Young Leaders. This is the new flagship program of the President's, the Young African Leaders Initiative, YALI, as most of you have heard. This program will bring over 500 young leaders to the United States this year for leadership training and mentoring, and will create what we hope are unique opportunities in Africa to put these new skills to practical use in propelling economic growth and prosperity and strengthening democratic institutions. And again, I've heard from many, Africa is a big continent. There's a huge youth bulge. Why only 500? Why not thousands? What our hope is these 500 will be doubled next year to 1,000, But every single one of these individuals who will go through this program will infect the people around them. They will encourage the people around them. They will mentor the people around them. And that number will expand and expand. And so I look forward to meeting these young people. And as I tell our colleagues, we're all getting old. I'm proud to say I will be 61 years old this week, and I'm not ashamed of it. And I know that it's time. I know when it will be time for me to move over for the younger generation. And we all have to move over for the younger generation, no matter where we are in our countries. The younger generation, we have to make space for them, we have to prepare them for success, and we have to mentor them so that they can bring a future to Africa that I have to say we have not succeeded in doing for them. And I'm talking to my colleagues from Africa because you know that it is your children and your grandchildren and the children of your children and grandchildren who will be bringing Africa forward in the 21st and the 22nd century, when Africa's growth will be so expansive and Africa will be a place where everyone will be looking to come. Your children have to be prepared to take on that mantle of power and of authority to keep moving the continent forward. And YALI will be the core project that will start that effort. And it is just a small start, but it will have a huge, huge impact. When these young people come to Washington next summer, I hope every single one of you have an opportunity to meet them, to touch them, to talk to them, to make a difference in their lives, because they will be in leadership positions in the future. They will be the young people who will be tapped, who will be the presidents and the senators and the governors that will be ruling Africa in the future. And we need to make sure that they get the right direction, the right training, the right mentoring, so that they can move forward on all of our agendas. We know that we must continue. We must continue to invest in the next generation of African leaders and to deepen the partnership and the connections between the United States and Africa, and that is the core of YALI and the Washington Fellowship. However, it is not possible to talk about partnership with sub-Saharan Africa without talking about AGOA. AGOA is the cornerstone of U.S. economic engagement, and its renewal is important not only to sustain our support for Africa's integration into the global economy, but to maintain our partnership with a region that is vitally important to the United States. It is of strategic and commercial importance to us. AGOA has helped eligible countries increase and diversify their exports to the United States. It has created jobs on both sides of the Atlantic. It has attracted investments, and all at little cost to the U.S. government. So this group knows better than anyone the value of AGOA. But some of the successes of the program have really been striking. In fact, total African exports under AGOA have more than quadrupled since the program's enactment in 2000. And initiatives like the African Women's Entrepreneurship Program, known as AWEP, strengthened African enterprises and provided added opportunities for female entrepreneurs, the backbone of small and medium businesses in Africa. It is women who keep those businesses going. There's nothing more vibrant to see in Africa than to go into the marketplace and see African women making a difference. African women who are many uneducated, but smarter than the average college student on business. This is amazing, and we have to honor those women, we have to support them, and we have to encourage them. I want to particularly thank Congresswoman Bass, who has been a staunch advocate of AWEP and has supported all of the programs that we have been involved in. Yet, we also know that many AGOA-eligible countries have not taken advantage of the potential benefits, and all exporters still continue to attempt and struggle to diversify their efforts and their exports. We hope to change that through initiatives such as the USAID-funded regional trade hubs that encourage countries to develop and execute AGOA export strategies. One of the particular strengths of AGOA is the mandatory annual review of countries' adherence to eligibility criteria, which include economics, it includes rule of law, it includes human rights issues. By creating tangible incentives for African countries to implement the sometimes challenging economic, legal, and political reforms needed to improve their investment climate, AGOA supports African countries' efforts to become more competitive in the global marketplace. There is no reason that there should not be African tigers who are out there competing across the world, not just in Africa, but across the world with the Asian tigers. So that there will be sometime in our future when the young people who are in this room and young people in Africa take over, a pivot toward Africa that will take advantage of all of the growth that we see on that continent. 2015 is just around the corner. It seems like a long time away. I look forward to working with members of Congress on the legislation, on AGOA legislation. It is my hope that we're not waiting until the midnight hours of 2015 to, to pass AGOA, that we work every day over the next few months so that we can get AGOA legislation passed and move forward so that this wonderful program that has contributed so much to trade and development in Africa continues without a break. This is vital, but yet energizing time for our relationship with Africa. This is a vital and energizing time. So I want to thank all of you for allowing me to speak at this event. I know you will continue to inform, engage, and influence your constituents to make an impact in the region, ensuring that President Obama's vision becomes a reality. This is not just my job. This is all of our jobs. And I look forward to working with all of you and moving forward what is, I know, our common agenda. Thank you very much.